In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to take an object that you design in Sketchup and take it to the 3D printer. So to do that, we have to export it. First, let's just take a look at my item here. You can see this is just meant to be a little coffee table or end table or something like that. Please notice how it's scaled. If I go here and take my little measuring tape, you can see I designed this so it's exactly 1 inch long by 1 inch. The legs are 3/16 of an inch square and then extruded down by 3/4 of an inch. It's designed right now for the actual size that I want to print it, and that's important. All right, so what we need to do is export that file as something that the 3D printer can use. And what you'll notice is if I go to export as a 3D model, we specifically need an STL file, and I don't have that option here. I have other options, but I need an STL. So we actually have to get an extension for SketchUp. So to do that, I'm going to go to Window and then Extension Warehouse, and I'm going to type in STL and see what pops up. And this is the first time I've tried printing from SketchUp, so this is all new. You can see there's lots of options to export, but this one is by the SketchUp team, like the people that design SketchUp. So I trust that one. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to download. And now I need to sign in. So I went offline there as I went to get my username and password. Anyway, this is what happened. It says might not be compatible with my version, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. We'll see what happens. All right. All right, so it says it's available. So let's give it a shot. Let's see if I can now export. Export STL. So there it is. Let's see. Since I designed it in inches, I should make sure I specify that it's in inches. File format, I don't know about that. We'll give this a shot. Okay, let's see. And hopefully that's safe. So the next thing I need to do is use a different software package to prepare it for 3D printing. And the software we need for that is called Replicator G. So I can just type in Replicator. Now we've installed this. This is another free software program. We've installed this on all the computers at school. So everybody should have access to that. All right, so here is Replicator G. And what you'll notice is there's actually a little picture of a barn. That was like the last thing that I printed. But we need to open our file. So I'll go to File, Open, and there's my table right there where I had saved it. So it doesn't look like it's scaled appropriately because I see it right down there. I don't know if you can see that. So we're going to have to scale that. Let's see. And so scaling is over here on the right, and it looks like, I'm not sure what it did. It might have imported it as millimeters. So I'll try this. If I go from millimeters to inches, oop, wrong way. So I'll undo that. Let me try inches to millimeters. That looks better. All right, so it looks like, I didn't mean to do that. Each of these on the grid is a centimeter, and we know 2.54 centimeters is an inch, and I know my table was an inch. So it looks like this is roughly 2.5 centimeters, so that's an inch. So I hit the inches to millimeters in order to scale that, and that seemed to have worked, which is good. I can also see that it's on the platform. So it's hard to see in this view, and if I had my mouse I might be able to zoom better. But I can see that it's resting on that platform. You'll also notice when I made this table in SketchUp, I made it upside down, and I actually did that intentionally because when I import it, I want the flattest surface to be on the print bed because printing is a build-up process. 3D printing is where you're building up material. And if I had this table right side up, there'd be a lot of hollow space underneath it. It wouldn't print very well. It would build all this support material. It would take forever, and it would do a crappy job. If I had designed it right side up, it's not a problem. I can come in and I can rotate the object before I print it, and I can move it such that I like place it on the platform and such. You can rotate it a certain amount and all that. So it wouldn't be that hard, but I know whatever I 3D printed before, so I knew to do that in advance. All right, so what this program does, this Replicator G, is it slices your object. And what that means is that it takes it into several different layers to print it. All right, so my next step here is to model the G code. So I'll click that. I don't need to save it, it doesn't matter. And so here's where it's giving me some parameters that I need to set. So if you take a look at these settings, these are the settings that are default on my software because this is the last one I did, but it won't be default when you open it. So make sure that you have Replicator 2 slicing defaults in this drop-down menu. We're going to use the right extruder. We have two 3D printers. Both are using the right extruder. For my particular print, I don't need a raft or supports. And what that means is if I were to have flipped this table upside down and it needs those supports that I was talking about, we would have to click this. But there's no part of this that's unsupported. Meaning, like if I had something that was cantilevered over like that, I would need to support that, where I would click Use Raft and Support, but I don't need to do that here. This is fine. And percent infill means how dense it's going to make these solid sections. 10% is totally fine. 0.2 millimeters for a layer height is fine. 160, 80, all these are totally perfect. This is what we should be using for the type of filament that we're using, which is PLA, which is a vegetable-based plastic. So I'm going to say generate G code. It gives me that little warning, which is fine. I just say OK. And this will take just a minute, and it goes through its thing, and we're good to go. OK, so next is we need to build to file. So this was generate the G code. Next to this, now you can see this has been highlighted. I couldn't select that before. But, pardon me, there's one intermediate step. If I go to this tab, G code, you'll see a whole bunch of numbers, parameters, that sort of thing. There's one thing we need to change here, which is kind of annoying. But it's this line right here, M109. This is the print bed temperature, and it sets it too high. And so we're going to change that from 110 to 55 degrees. And that's all you have to do is just manually go in there and change the temperature. It's really annoying that we have to do that, but it is what it is. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to say build to card, and you'll notice the new file type is a .s3g. That is the file type that we need. So I'm going to call it table s3g. I'll save it to my desktop, and that's good to go. So it's saving. And so now, if I were to go to my desktop, I should see both of those files. So you can see table. This is the original, the STL file, and this was the G code. It's an intermediate step that it does. And then this is the S3G, and this is the file that I actually care about. This is the one that's going to get 3D printed. So we load that to an SD card, take it to the printer, and print it. And that's about it for 3D printing.